with the SQL Labs master, and today we're gonna start with our web application penetration testing part. And over here, I have some of the views of comprehensive checklist, which can help us for web application pen testing part. So you can see most comprehensive web application penetration testing checklist, more than 170 custom test cases. So over here, you can see how we can penetrate our fingerprinting in the application. So they're saying brute force subdomains, directory admission by Dubbuster, Burpsuit, Intruder, identify the underlying web application client and their technology. See over here, this is the important part. And you can say uncover the HTTP, HTTPS services running a port on the ATN 443. Find leak email IDs, password using vleakinfo and hunter.io. So identity the firewalls, find sensitive information through keywords for crawling entire sites and such keyword like admin password and to do. So there is a step-by-steps has been given over here. For example, you will see for network penetration testing part, you have to use for test for ping, which is your ICMP packets allow for filtered, DNS transing for zone transfer, missing DNSSEC policies, missing DNSRC policies, perform necessary scan, uh, banner disclosure, open ports you can see over here, application feature mapping, which is a generate site structure in a mind map tool, list all the dynamic features, add all the possible theoretical test cases with your mind. If you talk about the applications component, test for SSL and TLS weaknesses using Qualys or SSL scanner, identify known vulnerabilities in running web and network part. So each and everything has a checklist over here. So this was prepared for the Chintan Gurjar. You can see session management system. They have given all the steps, step by step that we need over here for our application part. So the major perspective of these slides is to simply give you awareness about all the applications and the attacks that could be leaders for the information gathering part. So if you check over here, they have given all the things you need: registration, feature testing, authentication testing. Authentication testing, it's all about your explanation, and that we're gonna try today. So you can see username innovation, bypass authentication using various SQLs and username and password fields. Use combinations of below injection, like here they have given single code or is equal to one is equal to one minus minus or single code. They have given all the possibilities one by one. Automate complaint testing, lack of password configurations, change email address, change password, manage to FA. See, some of the vulnerabilities can be lead us for gaining unauthorized access on any of the client users. Error code testing. So this checklist will give us a proper way which things we have to need and which thing we have to do one by one. That could be lead us for information gathering part. So major perspective over here is to simply give you awareness about what should be done in which time. You can see cross-site scripting testing. They have given us some payloads that could be help us for leading information, and some of the few things can be happen over there. SQL injection testing over here. They have given so locator error based. If the parameter is static integer value, like your ID is equal to 4, try ID is equal to 3 plus 1, ID is equal to, if the page load is in the same way, if it's vulnerable. Use SQL map to identify vulnerable parameters. See, fill browser GUI submit normally. Go to the history tabs, pursuit and find the relevant request. So they have given all the things one by one over here that can be used for our upcoming sessions. This checklist is all about to give you awareness about the attack point. There are lots of checklists over here. So my major perspective was to simply tell you about the attack phase that can be lead us for the further stages things. For example, if you see over here, I simply set up a lab over here to penetrate your skills. But first thing first, if you are not aware about the SQL injection, a basic SQL injection, or the SQL only, not the injection part, if you simply go for the OWASP option, your gray campus. So according to the ingestion part, if we talk about ingestion is an attack where an attacker simply insert untested data which is flowing in the backend of the process, which can lead for any arbitrary command execution. So over here, if you look over here on the screen, they have given the types of injection can be happening over there, which can be SQL injection, your LDAP injection, your PHP injection, your OS command injections. So they have given what to inject, queries, OS commands, codes, URL, argument manipulations. Where to inject, wherever a user input is required to use, you can search can modify data. It can be a text box, username, password field, backup field, comment field, and URL. Why to inject? To check if the application is vulnerable or not. So our major perspective was to simply check all the possibilities one by one, which can lead us for the information gathering part. So the major perspective of the SQL injection, before you are jumping to the SQL injection, first try to read about the basic concept. If you are not aware about the SQL part, just go for W3 School SQL. At least you should know about the basic syntax, which can help us for the related part, which is SQL stands for Structured Query Language, standard of storing, manipulating, and retrieving data in the database. And the major objective of the SQL injection, they have MySQL, SQL Server, MS Access, Oracle, Sysbex, Informatics. See, there are lots of other databases over there on the server side. Just we need to understand how the SQL database works and what is the use of SQL. So this is a standard, so which can be used for manipulating the data and retrieving the data from the database server. So over here you can see a basic commands over here. So if you go over here, like there's a website called Security Idiots. So Security Idiots is a website where you can learn for more advanced of the testing part. For example, information gathering part. You can talk about the Cloudflare bypass, LFI injection, SQL injection. We're gonna read about the SQL part. So over here you can see on the screen that they have given a basic tutorial how SQL structure works. So basic of SQL for SQL injections. So for example, we have some databases like over here. Some we have a database one with some table name, and in the table name they have some column name. So there's a structure. First, it would be the database, then it would be a table name, and then the columns, the number of columns which is present over there. So in this, you can see over here they have given a simple database structure. In this tutorial, we will discuss some of the basic of the SQL queries. Yeah, they will concentrate on the queries and basic, which will help with to run different phases of injections. See this one. This is a proper hierarchy which is given over here. A hierarchy which is an architecture. So we have some examples like database one, which has some table names like your table name one and table name student. So table name one contains some columns which is common data's column names, column two, column three, column four over here, and the table name which is has a student table name, which has an ID column, which has a app name column, the L name column, and the roll number column. So this is a proper structure where a normal database looks like. So, and the MySQL query, if I created a table name over there, here is an example of the most common basic of the Slack. So we have a Slack statement. So if you guys are not aware about the Slack statement, you can simply go to the W3 screen, and over here you can go to the Slack info. It's class Slack into, but you have to select only the Slack. So see over here, the select statement is used to select the data from the database. Fetch, you can say in the different terms. Fetch the data from the database. The data written in the stored result table name called result set. So how it looks like, select column name, column 1, column 2 from table name this. Or you can write select star from the table name. It will star means all. So if you want to check over here, you can simply check with this one, or otherwise they have given, here is an example of the most basic type of select query, and that is our select star from table 1. So table 1 was this. It will fetch all the column names over here, because we are reading the data from the table name 1, which contains all the information in the backend side query. Or you can see over here they have given a star, which stands for all the columns and the table 1, the table name. Or you can see they have used the specific table column name 1, column name 2 from the table name 1. So you will see column 1 and column 2 over here. So the major perspective of this one is to simply understand how the queries works, because if you see, so let's try some basic condition now, limit of the output. So now they are using select star from the students where ID is equal to 1. Students table now, where ID is equal to 1. So it means it's going to fetch all the column names from this. See, the ID is basically the column name from the table. That's why they use select star from user student where the ID is equal to 1. Let's have a look how does it looks like in the URL parameter. So I'm going to use some Google Docs. We can use exploratory databases, which I mentioned you very last time, or we can go for Google Docs for SQL. So then we can try this one to simply extract all the column names over there. These are the parameter values, but in the real life scenarios, if you are manipulating or finding the data on the URL parameter, you have to search for the data. For example, let me show you over here that in the Hacker Handbook 2, check this one. The real path of the URL will look like this: the protocol, the host name, the port number, the path, the file, the parameter, and the value. So the URI, which is your uniform resource locator, will be look like this whenever you visit a website over there. The protocol which is saying over here is your HTTPS protocol. Host name is the website, the MedSec over here. Authentication port, you can see your file type, the parameter values, and other things. So our major objective will be to check all the possibilities one by one that will lead us for information in the part. For example, you can see over here domain name, file type, dot common language, question mark parameter is equal to value. So what could be the possibilities over there that could be help us for the leading part? For example, the domain name, the file type, the programming language is an important thing to identify. The parameter, the value is important. Give me 2 minutes over here. Okay? Yes. So what we have over here, we're gonna check for so over here the most important thing is the parameter with the value. The parameter is equal to value is the important thing. Why? Because it will be like your domain name. The domain name could be anything. xyz.com. The file path could be anything. Just like your list, product list, you can say. Programming language will be PHP. ID is equal to 1. Now, the most important thing, the ID over here. The ID is a column name which is fetching a data, a value. But in the real scenario, if we talk about over here, it's a parameter value. But you have to think about in the real scenarios that if there is an ID, how we can fetch the data. For example, see over here. In URL dot php question mark ID is equal to in URL HTTP. I simply visit the HTTP websites and you can see how many HTTP websites are there. And you can see ID is equal to 15, ID is equal to 4, ID is equal to 1. So let's have a look. This is a normal your Indian website. So if you see the ID is equal to one parameter, you can see a parameter with the value. You'll see no error. Didn't find any error over here. So we have to try one by one all the possibilities. Our major perspective of this one is to identify what are the ID parameter looks like, and there would be lots of other things can happen. .php I used. It means it could be anything, and you can see over here one by one. Barclay second part. See, and what I have, you have an error in your SQL syntax. Check that my corresponding MySQL server version for the right syntax near F1. If you find an ID parameter is equal to 1, look for the errors similar to this one. In most of the cases, what will happen, you will have to check Boolean condition. The Boolean condition that will help us for the leading part. So this is the later thing, but the most important part as to how you're going to identify the parameter is vulnerable or not. The URL segment, the Google Doc will help us a lot in the future part. So the ID is equal to, think about in the MySQL structured database, it's a column name. And in the real scenario, it's the parameter with the value. So if you look over here, the select statement. Let's try some other conditions with the string column. So the Google Docs is also helpful. You can see they have given view items .php ID, .php is equal to cat, items php cat, page is equal to view. So they have given a proper Google Docs that can help us to figure out the SQL injection part. Not the SQL injection, the attacking phase. So you can see select star from student where F name is equal to Cameline. Now they have simply selecting a column name. Select star from student where F is equal to underscore name is Cameline. So over here, the Cameline is on the fourth one. You can simply use, if you know the column name, you can select the value. It will show you all the output that you want. See over here, they have given some part. And the most important thing is this is a string value, which is encoded and encapsulated with a single quote. Whenever we facing SQL injection, sometimes query is running inside the application. Inside the application, we can't see because we have only the front end. So once we have assumed that the queries we can easily start injecting in it. The following are the some of the possibilities queries you can face. For example, if the query is taking any numerical input. For example, see over here. Select star from table name where ID is equal to 1. Numerical values over here. It means over here, this one. A numerical value can be encapsulated with a single quote, double quote, bracket, single quote bracket, double quote bracket. So all of those can give you the same output. There will be nothing much. And if the query is taking any string input means the characters. So they have they have given the same thing. So there will be nothing. You will get the same output. But the most important thing, which value is encapsulated with the single quote or double quote, that to identify the type of balance in the query. For example, see this one. Okay. Yes. They are saying please enter the ID is equal to parameter with the numerical. Okay. So it would be like question mark ID is equal to. See. Now my major objective is to find is the ID, which is a column name with the value 1 is encapsulated with a single quote or double quote. Let's enter a backslash. So over here I can see the ID is, column 1 is encapsulated with a single quote over here as per the data which is given. Let's try with the lesson 2. See this one. You will see in the lesson 2 the ID is equal to parameter is not using anything because we have to check the backslash after the backslash. Check the third one. Now a single quote bracket. Let the parameter values come captured with a single quote bracket. So you have to balance the code. See, if I write single quote bracket, single quote bracket, you will see the error. But you have to balance the query because this single quote bracket is encapsulated like this one. I use again a single quote, but we are not going to use this one over here. This is a proper value. So the first thing first is to check how the parameter is encapsulated with it. All of the other queries will give you the same output. There will be nothing much, but it's a value encryption standard. For example, when we see any URL like HTTP fake web this report.p IDs 23, we can easily assume that the query will be making a working inside. And the first step is for SQL injection. So you have to assume WURL assumptions that the 23 parameter would be like your single quote or double quote or a bracket or a single bracket or double bracket. You have to assume that thing. So over here they have given, well, for this tutorial this is enough. So I let you know about the basics of select statement and the encryption standard which is used over there in the packet surface, which can be lead us for information you have required. For example, if you check for the part 2, you will see the above sessions which is continuing over here. Welcome to the second part of the basic of the SQL injections. You can see they have given the same ID 0 to 23 and the basic way. So they have given selects from table name where ID is equal to 23. So they have exception with a single quote, double quote, bracket, single bracket or double bracket. See this one. You may also encounter your input with the columns or group order by statement. Encounter your columns, group and order. What are these things? Group by. The group by statements row that have been same values into summary row like find the number of a customer in each entry. The group statement is often used to aggregate functions like your count, max, min, sum, and average. So it's like percentage over there. Or no, there is nothing. So over here you can see by the statement they are not common, so we have to discuss that. Okay, they are not thing. What we have before we start, we must have to different types of comments used in SQL. Comments. This is the important part because when you are executing your malicious piece of code, you have to comment out the right hand side query. Why I'm saying this one? Because see, if you have a parameter with a value, if you want to simply use your malicious code, your malicious code over here. So in the back end, they do something like this. So you have to comment out the right hand side query, the hashtag which is used for comment out. But over here, different architectures of your database has different comment out. For example, you will see here for commenting of your MySQL Linux system, you have to use minus minus. MySQL for Windows style, it's your minus minus plus. Hash URL encode with users. SQL comment for minus minus plus minus. Commenting out means stop the query to execute it, or semicolon percentage 00, which is your null byte, and backtick is also there. So these things we're gonna use for our payload or balancing the query. For example, see this one. If I find that this value is basically encoded by the single quote or single quote bracket, so I'm still having the error. So what I'm going to do, I have to balance the query so it will be executed over there. So minus minus plus. See, the minus minus plus is basically used to comment out the right hand side query, which is not shown over here, because we're going to create a hookup point where we place our malicious piece of code, which will be over here. See, there was a space given over here. So the most important thing is each and every MySQL database has a different comment out session. So if you look over here, there will be lots of other things can happen. What kind of error you will get when you have a error? So they have given information for, remember, whenever the input is enclosed with the single quote, only single quote with the input will create an error. See, when the input is enclosed with the double quote will be input with given error. When input is not enclosed with anything, single quote or double quote, we will get an error. What kind of error we will get? First of all, we can try our input with the sum of the injection to see if we can get an error. So through the error, we can identify if there is an explanation or not. Error may always not be real for SQL error. It may be some other generic error also, change for the output of the application. So let's see MySQL error style. If you have an error in your SQL syntax, check that MySQL. It will be like this one. So if you get an error just like this, it means there is an SQL injection on the server side. That could lead us for injection part. MySQL ASP error, server error in application. MS SQL, see, MSXX, Apache HTTP, fatal error, uncaught exception, see, MSXS, IAS, ASP, Microsoft Jet data error, Oracle error. You will see there are given lots of other type of errors, Oracle errors like this one, or DBC error, PostgreSQL error, MS SQL error. See, all the things will be given over here one by one, and each and every error has a different point. So what they have over here. Now they're gonna show, they're gonna create an error and confirm which query is working inside the application while using the same example. Fakesite.com report PHP ID is equal to 23. You can perform these checks and check the reactions of the application. See, they have given one by one. So they have given select star from table name where ID is equal to 23. They're fetching the data from the table name where the column name is ID. So they have given, so 23 a single quote. It should be cause an error or no output. Double quote, it should cause an error, no output. 23 is equal to 1 is equal to 1. Any output should become but different output. Let's try this one. A condition one. This is a condition of true and false condition. So let's have a look at it. Or function. 1 is equal to 1. So this was a true for condition. Let's try 2. Let's try 3. Okay. It was 1. So let's try single quote bracket over here first of all. It's another. Now the balance equation. The first thing first, when you find something over here, you have to check one by one. Any output should become but maybe different output. They have given a condition over here. Same output should become and function and false, no output. Same output minus minus plus. See, same output I use minus plus to comment out. Later I will show you how to use all of this. So you can see over here they have given a statement over here. If the applications react with some of the above, you're sure that injection is an integer type. Select star from the table name where ID is equal to 23. See, they have given one by one. Single quote, double quote, single quote bracket. They have given the condition over here. If the web application reacts some of the above, it can be used anything. But the most important part is to balance the query, and they are using for balancing the entire query over there. All you just need to do is to understand how the error works. It's all about the condition. Just you have to make your own notes and you have to manipulate those things one by one, which can lead us for the further stages. Through the true condition, you can find an error over there. Just you have to look one by one. See, this is also true condition. Any output should become but a different output. This query is a Boolean query, which is basically used to identify is there an explanation or not. Remember one thing, if you find an ID is equal parameter, you will not get any output, but you have to look for one by one all the possibilities. This is a true statement, that's why it's given an output. So our major objective would be to check all the possibilities one by one. It's all about the parameter values to balance. You can see if the web application reacts some of the shown above, that can make you sure the injection is bracelet, encapsulated, double coated, or based in input query. So here we can learn about to check whether query is working inside the application or not. It's all about the parameter value. The least and the last we have is the Commentout. As this last part, we're gonna look for the URL. An example, then assume some of the basic queries by looking out the URL, then have to try different injections and learn how to figure out the type of query are facing. This tutorial will help us to understand the commenting type we should use for how to find the number of columns. See how to find the number of columns are present on the server side. The first thing, when you find an ID, it's a column name. So you have to assume how many column names are there on the server, which can be lead us for information getting part. And these minus 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 plus hash or commenting SQL, these are basically used to comment out the queries from the backend side. See this one, and how does it looks like? Injection. It depends on about the environment. In the minus minus or minus minus plus, it could be your or hash function or encrypted function. See this one, a fake website.com report.php id is equal to 23 minus minus. It's an integer type injection, and minus minus can be used for comment out. Single quote type injection and minus one can be comment out. So single quote over there, double quote, bracket, single quote bracket, double quote bracket. So it's about the balancing the query. Then the minus minus plus is used for commenting out. So the payload would be between the minus minus and the plus. So over here you can write single quote minus minus. So this is a MySQL. Remember the MySQL style. So what was the MySQL style over here? MySQL style Linux, it will be minus minus space, and MySQL Windows style minus minus plus. So you have to figure it out. So we have to assume which could be the possibilities. So over here, the commenting, the balancing the query is the important part. When you have find the balance query, see this one. Why I'm saying the balance the query? As the minus minus comment out is a manner how we can check the commenting types, and the one which can give us the same output is given as HTTP. Then we can help us to understand the type of internal query along with comment that can be used. Over here they have given the queries finding out the comments that can be used. First of all, we understand the basic of injecting. Anytime we're an application, whenever and is injecting the following three components. Remember balance, inject, and comment. First, you have to balance the query, which is your balance. This is your comment out. Sorry. This is your comment out, which is your minus minus plus, and the hookup point, the injectable point is this. He was talking about inject. See this one. They have given a proper standard how we can understand. We have given a fake URL website.com report PHP ID is equal to 23 single quote. Single quote is your balance the query. See this one. This is the balance the query. This is your URL, and over here minus minus plus is your commenting out, and order by to this is your injection. Injection means where you can place the payload, which can be help us for the exploiting part. So the select star from the table where ID is equal to input. See, You just have to need to understand how the attack phase works. That could be lead us for information very well. And yes, the backend database is the important thing. If you find any database server on the backend that could be lead us for information getting part, you have to check one by one all the architectures. And there is nothing much. But you have to use the consumption part, which can be lead us for information. So this website security bits will tell you let you know about the basic concept how we can use it for the part, which can lead us for different things. So this application, this security data website will let you know about the things that we need. Remember this photo. This is important because all the things is based over here. Balance, inject, and comment. Three things in the major part.